Hey everyone. All right, let's go through one of these videos. There's a lot of them out there. I just picked this one. This is about the Israel-Palestine conflict, basically Hamas. Let's go through the video here and see. It's pretty horrific, everything that's going on. The numbers are staggering at this point.
War with Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip. More than 800 people have been killed on both sides since the war broke out on Saturday when Hamas...
So 800 apiece. Estimated, these numbers are going to bounce around. There's really no way to validate it right now. There's too much going on. But Hamas started this war. I know they're going to go back and talk about historical disagreements over land and agreements that were made and how after wars, Israel encroached on more land than they should have gotten from the UN. Those debates will happen. And basically the Palestinians will complain about how the Israel has treated them over the years, the blockades, blocking all things from coming in and out for the last, I think, 2 years. And, so you're basically just stirring up a hornet's nest there. We need to learn how to live together, right, as one nation under God. That's the only way this works, is when all of us, right, operate as one nation, the world, humanity, under God. That's it. Take your little flags and put them away because that's never going to work. And there's only one religion, right? It's Christianity. That's it. I would think the fact that Christ is back would settle that, but maybe it hasn't for some. There's a lot of years, thousands of years, people have been believing things that are incorrect, and it's going to take a while, even with visual proof, right? Even watching all the events happening in the world, being able to see it essentially live, right? What's going on, and being told what's going on, even then, people won't believe. So you understand why people didn't believe in Christ, because we don't have any video, we don't have any audio, right? You've got archaeological evidence and things like that, and people's writings, but you got multiple folks writing, creating books. Some of those books don't even have authors. You don't even know who wrote them, right? When they cobble together, they agree that, these 66 books, we'll just say this is the Bible and we'll agree to put these in. Other books aren't included, even though they're referenced in the Bible. I'm going back through the Old Testament right now, which is horrific, but I just got through Job, so we're moving on to Psalms and Proverbs, so high hopes for those. But, even going through the Old Testament, like as you're reading it, they'll be referencing books that aren't even included in the Bible because they weren't canonized. So that just goes to show you, like, how credible those books are. And you have to understand human nature, right? Do you believe any book you read today written by someone? Or do you think, I wonder if they had a bias or not? I wonder if maybe they're not 100% honest. I wonder if they have motives for including things and excluding things and all that. So it's very difficult to trust literature from hundreds, thousands of years ago, right? 2000 BC, 1000 BC, AD, 600 AD, right? Very violent time periods. And people have problems, trusting those documents. But even when you see proof, even when it's right in your face and you can see it, and you can look at the world and you can see, meteorological events that are happening, you can see, earthquakes and volcanoes and floods and all of this, right? Things that you would expect to see in the tribulation. Even with all this evidence, it still won't be enough for some people. So you convince as many as you can. That's all you can do. But let's go through this. So, like I said, this is the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Both sides are going to say they're correct. Both sides have a religion that's incorrect. So, just like when the Muslims fight with the Hindus, whatever, right? Two incorrect religions, they fight each other. It's just the way it is. People have been misled for a very long time. So here we've got the Jews from Israel, fighting with the Muslims from Hamas. In this particular instance, it's Hamas that started the fight. They fired off, I think, at least 2,000 rockets over at Israel, multiple locations. Indiscriminately killing men, women, children, every demographic you can think of within a population. So horrific, absolute disregard for life, absolute disregard for God's creation. Those are God's creations that they are destroying. And apparently they don't care, right? And they think that there are no, repercussions for that, which is absolutely incorrect. God would never create this system in such a way that you could do whatever you wanted, because unfortunately God understands how flawed we are, right? How much of a limited understanding we have during our current evolution. We've come a long way, but clearly not that far. We're still operating, like it's 600 AD or 2000 BC or 1000 BC. We're still operating the same way. We still don't care. We still devote things to destruction. Hamas, be nice. Hamas, right? The Muslim terrorist. They want to devote all the Jews to destruction. They want to just wipe them out. Men, women, and children. I think that's one of their charters. So they're pretty clear on that. I think the same with Iran, right? They want to just destroy Israel, destroy the Jews. So it's pretty clear where they stand and what side they're on, right? You got light and dark, right? That's kind of how it works. And then you've got the spectrum in the middle. So these folks are definitely on the far left-hand side there because they're willing to just massacre people. Men, women, and children. Innocent people. Excluding the military that would be fighting for these two, right? Because of their religious differences. And not only that, it's also their land disputes. And you can take that all the way back to the Old Testament and the promised land. And how Moses told them that basically this is your land and, don't worry about it. Even though those people were practicing ridiculous religions and sacrificing children and doing sexual debauchery in temples and all that pagan garbage. Even though they were doing all that, it doesn't give you the right to say, oh, well, God told me, that this is my land. It's my promised land. So I can go in there and just wipe out everybody. And most importantly, take all your stuff, right? I can go in there and I can kill everybody. And then I can take all the war spoils. Because war spoils, guess what that does? You're incentivizing war. You're incentivizing death. Why do you think that Russia and everyone else, they're so interested in acquiring land? Because land has natural resources on it. You've got rivers, you've got means of transportation, you've got precious stones, you've got, all kinds of minerals and things that go into computer chips and whatever, and batteries and everything else. And grain and food, right? Land, you get resources. So when you add in war spoils, you're basically incentivizing war, which means that you're okay with wiping people out. You're okay with killing people, murdering people to get stuff, right? To get precious stones and gold and silver and whatever. Access to rivers and waterways and whatever. Land. Things to build on. So, like I said, you can go back to biblical times. So I'm sure if you ask the Palestinians, they'll take it all the way back too and say, oh, this is our land. And then Israel came in and there was agreements from the British and, they took over our land. I get it. But we're just going to deal with this, what just happened. Hamas, a terrorist organization, indiscriminately fired off 2,000 plus rockets, 2,000, 4,000, 7,000, depends on which news agency you trust, thousands. Shot them off, blowing people up, dismembering people, killing them, maiming them, burning them for the rest of their lives, right? Causing absolute chaos. And they don't care. Because in their warped minds, they think that their God, Allah, approves of murdering and killing people and maiming people and terrorizing people. That isn't God. The devil might tell you to do that, but God would never tell you to do that. Right? So be careful who you worship. And also, as an aside, God would never have you worship a black rock. Right? That's an idol. Almost as bad as this mosque or whatever it is in Jerusalem y'all keep fighting over, this building. Guess what? It's a building, and you've turned it into an idol, right? Al-Aqsa. So now you want to fight over this building full of gold and whatever. You've basically put this building on a pedestal higher than God. You've made it an idol. You are so worried about this building that you're willing to violate the 10 Commandments on murder and idol worship, right? And your bloodlust and things of that nature. So you're willing to violate some of the core principles of God's commandments to us just so that you can have access to a building, right? It's a building. You can go outside and worship God. You can worship God in your bedroom. You can worship God while you're walking in the park. You can talk to God whenever you want. It doesn't require a building. It doesn't require tithing. It doesn't require anything. Because God, in God's wisdom, is going to make it as easy as possible to have a relationship with you. That's why you were created, right? So God can walk with us through this journey, this eternal journey. That when you act in horrible ways, you will have a horrible journey. It will not be pleasant. You will eventually see the light. How long that takes you and how many times you want to bounce your head off the rocks and fight God is up to you. Right? If you want to fight God Almighty, have at it, Hoss. But you're going to lose. And it's not even that he's vengeful and angry and wants to hurt you. It's just that he's saying, hey, I built the system. Please listen. And I'll tell you how to make it to the promised land. Right? The top floor. Your promised land, we'll make it as nice as we can. We're going to try to raise the floor up to heavenly standards. That's only possible when we can get all of you folks to act right. And it seems like that's going to be a while. Because we have a lot of you that have been misled by false religions and anger and your desire for vengeance and your bloodlust. You're basically just filled to the brim with sin. You've got that sin wrapped around your soul so tight that you can't see the light anymore. It's just got that dark kudzu wrapped all over it. You've just got that canopy of sin covering your soul. And unfortunately, you're never going to make it to the top floor like that. When you act like this, you don't deserve to be there. You wouldn't belong there. You wouldn't like it. And nobody else would like it if you were there. You need to act as if. We need to, while we're here, act as if we're going to the top floor for sure. So we want to make sure that we act like we're top floor material. We're heavenly material. We're worthy to be in the presence of God for eternity. And you cannot say that when you act like this. When you're out firing rockets, just indiscriminately firing rockets, thousands of them, into civilian populations because you have disagreements over your religion, even though you're both wrong, and arguments over your land. And those arguments could be made, even going back to biblical times, right? Back to your Torah and your promised land and your genocide and your devoting to destruction, right? All that devoting to destruction's all over the Old Testament. All right? Call it whatever you want. But you have to act as if you belong in heaven to be able to get there, which is why God in his wisdom gives you lots of time to figure that out, because from what I'm seeing, many of you are nowhere close. Some of you are much worse than others, and unfortunately, because of all the sin that you've attached to your soul, after you shed your body, you will not be going to the top floor. Your next destination will probably not be very pleasant at all. And that's between you and God. But from the way you act, you get back what you give out. Right? That whole term, you reap what you sow, treat others the way you want to be treated. If you run around like a savage, destroying people, hurting people, burning people, raping people, stabbing people, you are going to get back what you give out. God is going to put a very large mirror in front of your soul, and you're going to get back exactly what you give out. I would highly recommend that you listen to God's commandments and God's advice. You take the advice and you act as if you want to be in heaven. You want to go to the top floor. Because no matter how bad your situation here is currently, right now, trust me, it can be a lot worse. You are going to get back what you give out. So all of these people firing rockets, blowing up innocent civilians, going to a music festival and murdering people, right? I'm sure people are getting raped. I haven't seen stories about that, but I know how human beings act. I know how young men act, especially around women, dressed in almost nothing at a music festival, at a rave, probably doing drugs. Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I know how young men act with their testosterone, all of that. False religion, testosterone, horrible culture, disrespect towards women based on Islam and your wonderful Prophet Muhammad's teachings and actions. Yeah, you put all that together, women, watch out. I can only imagine any female prisoners are not in a good situation right now. And understand that whatever you do to those women, to those prisoners, you are going to pay for it. 100%. God is a God of mercy and understanding. But I'm sorry, when you cross lines, you cross lines. And that's between you and God to work out. Your only hope is to stop everything you've done, repent for every sin that you have committed, and never do them again. And you better start working really hard to offset those sins for your atonement. And that won't be done through killing innocent animals, innocent beings, right? We'll save that for another day. You're so far off the mark on that. We'll save that for another day. But your atonement won't be killing, murdering, and burning innocent animals or people, right? You can't put a little straw man in front of you and say, hey, I'm going to magically take all my sin. I'm going to put all my sin into this little cup here, right? I'm just going to put all my sin in this cup somehow magically. And then I'm going to destroy this cup. And then all my sin is gone. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. I mean, it sounds nice, right? It sounds nice in theory that you could just take all of your heinous, disgusting sin and just stick it on some other object and then kill that object. And then somehow that absolves you of your sin. But thankfully, God and God's wisdom doesn't operate that way. When you commit sins, which are going against God's commandments, right? God gives us advice and says, hey, I built this place. I know what's going to happen to you if you don't listen. So I'm giving you the advice. You can choose to take it and you can have a wonderful eternity, or you can bounce your head off the pavement spiritually for as long as it takes. Because we've got about forever to go. So it doesn't matter. This ride never ends. You never finish. So it can be horrible for a very, very long time, if it needs to be. And that's based on individuals. That's based on our individual. We all have souls. We don't have a common soul, right? We're all children of God. If you want to use that terminology, we are creations, right? Us, the angels, the animals, the earth, all of it, everything. But we have individual souls. Right? Just like those animals that you murder and you kill and you eat, they have souls too. And these are what you would call vessels. So you have a vessel and a soul. And you'll realize that one day, when you die, I'll tell you the experience. This is when I figured it out when I was younger. This is back in my wild days. I was doing drugs back then, and we were doing whippets or whatever they call them, like the little canister deals. So we were doing that, and I think we were doing ecstasy at the time. I went through a rough stage, but we were doing ecstasy, and we were doing those canisters, those whippet things. Basically, you cut off oxygen to your brain. It's really smart, right? It's super intelligent. I mean, it's part of my story so that I can use it later, and now I know that. But yeah, I went off the rails when I was younger. But we were sitting there doing ecstasy. I don't know how many we taken. Probably the same as these people in these raves. Maybe I don't know. Maybe none of them were. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But at raves that happens. But we were doing the ecstasy, and then we were doing those canisters, the whippets, right? So I did those, and I think I did one or two, but apparently I did too much. And all of a sudden, it was strange because I was out of my body and I was looking down at my body. right? You ever heard people say that when they die, they come out of their body? And what'll happen is you'll be looking down at your body. So when you die, thankfully I didn't go too far, far enough to experience it, but enough to come back. When you die, eventually, right? It's part of the process here. It's part of the learning process. You're going to see your body. Just like these people you blew up, right? Or you stabbed or you shot and all this stuff. They saw their bodies when they died. And at that time, any atheists in the crowd were fixed. They were cured. Because what goes through your mind when you look down at your body? Initially, it's confusion. Initially, you're looking at your body and you're like, what? What's he wearing? Oh, that guy looks just like me. That's what I thought. I looked down and I'm like, who is this guy on the couch? He looks just like me. He looks a little pudgier. But you know how it is in pictures, right? So I was like, what? This guy, wait a second. That guy is me. That is me on the couch. Why am I out of the couch, hovering in the air, looking down at my body from it seemed like 15 or so feet away. It seemed like it. But in my mind, I can't wrap my head around it because I've seen myself in a mirror, but I've never seen myself lying on a couch like that. I've never seen that. So that's when I figured it out. I'm like, wait a second. I'm out of my body. How can I be out of my body? And I was seeing like regular eyes, right? I'm seeing just like this, but I wasn't in my body. I was out of it, right? My soul had come out. But it looked just like this, like I'm looking around. So I'm trying to figure this out. And later I realized I essentially died. I'd crossed over. Not all the way, but enough to pull my soul out of my body. I was looking down at my body. So I'd done those little whippets. And thankfully the way they work is that I guess the oxygen eventually goes back to your brain. And, I came back. And now I can use that story as part of this video, oddly enough. It's kind of weird, huh? But, so if there's any atheist out there, just an aside, you're wrong, 100%. And I understand I was agnostic for many years, so I understand why you would think that. You're like, there's no God. Why do horrible things happen here? Well, because you're not on the top floor. That's the reason. And you're here to learn. And it's not an accident that you're here because you're not ready. You're not ready to go home to your real promised land, the promised land. You're not ready, which is why you're here. So I'm here to help you get there. And in the meantime, we're going to try to raise the floor to get you people up to heavenly standards. But that's going to require all of us to change dramatically. You have to be not like this world, right? Heaven isn't like this place. I mean, I don't want to get into angels and stuff like that. There's reasons. But this place is nothing like the real promised land. And I'm not talking about land down here that you think that, God gave to Moses and then you want to go around and kill everyone and take. I'm not talking about that land. I'm talking about the real promised land. Granted, we're going to try to raise the floor up to heavenly standards, but that's going to require everyone. But getting back to my point, those people that you blew up, I'm sure there were some atheists in there, maybe, right? Trust me, they realized it as soon as they died and they looked at their charred bodies on the ground. They were going to be really confused and go, what the heck is this? Who is this on the ground? And it'll take them a second, maybe a couple seconds. They'll be like, depending on the damage especially. But eventually they'll realize that they're no longer in their body. And that's when they're going to realize that this isn't who you are, right? This is the vessel that I'm in currently, but that's it, right? When I die, I'll be looking down at this body, but I'll no longer be in it. Just like you'll no longer be in yours. And these people that you blew up, they're no longer going to be in theirs. So all of you atheists, you're going to be cured, don't worry. Agnostics, at least you're not an atheist, right? I get it. You have concerns. That's why I'm explaining it to you. You think, oh, there's no God. There is a God, right? Things aren't coincidences. Things don't just happen. Yes, we have free will, so that plays into it. But there is a God, right? God is good. God is love. God is caring. But God is a parent at the end of the day, right? And as a parent, do you ever have a child that you don't scold from time to time? And you don't do it to be mean. You do it to get them on the right path, to correct their behavior because you want them to have a wonderful life. That's why you do it. That's why you don't let them sit around and eat ice cream 24 hours a day or run around with knives, right? You keep them from doing evil things. You're a parent. That's your job, is to be a parent, to provide guidance, to scold when necessary, but you do it with love and compassion. You do it because you want to help them, not because you just like beating children. Although some of you, I guess that is your thing because you're just not nice people. But the journey is eternal. And trust me, after you get your head pounded off the pavement for long enough spiritually, you'll get it. The easiest thing you can do is to stop fighting God. When you stop fighting God and you let go and you listen to the guidance, God is only trying to help you. Not trying to trip you up, not putting snares in there. It's Temptation Island, right? You have free will and you're allowed to sin. Those sins will attach to your soul. It will impact your physical body and absolutely impact your eternal journey. So you have to avoid sin. And a sin is basically going against God's commandments, God's advice, however you want to look at that. And now that I've gone on that long rant, let's get into the video.
Rained thousands of rockets on Israel in a surprise pre-dawn attack from Gaza. In the latest, Israeli forces said...
Okay. So Israel's pulling out 100,000 reservists near Gaza. And I heard reports that they were going to pull in like hundreds of thousands, like not just 100,000, but hundreds of thousands. So this is going to be a full-blown war. So here's the deal. You have radical, savage Islamists, Muslims, right? False religion, false prophet, idol worship, horrible treatment of women, horrible religion, the worst. Not saying that everyone in that religion is bad, right? Not all of them, but I'm telling you as far as like scriptural material goes and idolizing Muhammad of all people, no. No, that God, the man was not from God, and he was not talking to an angel. But that being said, right, they fired off thousands of rockets, they took prisoners, they shot people, stabbed, raped, who knows what they did, burned. They're horrific people. God's going to punish them gravely. Don't worry. Leave it with God. I understand self-defense. I get that, right? Someone's running at you with a knife. Someone's running at you with a gun. You're allowed to defend yourself. That's true. There's evil allowed to happen in this world because of where we are, right? You can't think this is the top floor. You must know this is not, correct? And since God is in control of everything, it's not an accident that you're here. So you need to learn quickly so that we can fix this and raise the floor up. And then eventually when you die, you can go home to the real promised land, the true one. But after they shot all these in, right? They shot all these rockets in. They ran around, they shot people, stabbed, hijacked, whatever. They did all that. Then Israel is flying over, right? Bombing them with these big bombs. I don't know. I think F-16s they're using. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got a flight simulator over here. I don't play anymore, but it's kind of odd part of my story. So, at least I haven't played in a while. But I understand, like, I played Flight Simulator, DCS. It's extremely realistic for civilians, right? Civilian version, but extremely difficult to learn, and I had no flight experience at all. I'd never even flown a Cessna. So I had to learn how to fly an F-16 and an F-18 and an A-10 Warthog. I had to figure those out. But I understand what it's like, getting back to the point, what it's like to fly over at 20,000, 30,000 feet and drop bombs, right? Drop JDAMs, whatever, like guided munitions, glide bombs, stuff like that, cluster munitions, all that. I understand what that's like. And in the game, you can also watch the impact as it goes down and it hits the ground, and you see everything that it blows up and destroys. These bombs are disgusting the way they operate. They don't care. When a bomb goes off next to you, you can have on a bulletproof vest. You can be in an armored, carrier vehicle of some sort. You can be in a tank. It doesn't matter. You can be in a building. These bombs, like the penetrating bombs and all the various types they have, they've devised amazing ways to kill people. But they're horrific. The amount of pressure they create, some of them suck the air out and they explode your lungs and do all this horrible stuff and chemicals. They're terrible. So I understand what it's like to fly over at 30,000 feet and just drop bombs on people. I did it virtually, You can say it's an odd hobby, but oddly enough, it factors into my story quite well right now. And as far as I understand, Hamas, they don't have an air force. They may have some little drones that drop grenades, something like that. I think they've got some hang gliders or something that they used. But you compare that to the military might of Israel, it is nothing. All right, that's guerrilla warfare. They're throwing rocks. They can shoot at you. They can, kidnap some people. Hang gliders, I guess. Things like that. But Israel's got a legitimate army that they're amassing now. And they've already flown over Gaza how many times now and dropped how many bombs? They took down a bank. They took down a high-rise building. They're going to, and I know, right? Because I've flown a flight simulator. I know what these bombs do, at least from a virtual sense. You drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a building, you're going to do some damage. And you're going to kill, what do they call it? Collateral damage? As far as God is concerned, you're not allowed collateral damage, right? When you drop that bomb, there's no percentage of innocent people that God is okay with you killing. Some woman pushing a stroller down the street next to a building that you want to blow up, which you can't tell from 30,000 feet who's there. You can see like the building and the little IR or whatever. You can see that and you can drop that bomb, but you cannot guarantee that you're not going to kill innocent people. And God isn't okay. God expects a 0% rate of collateral damage. 0. So when you're dropping, when you're pressing your pickle button or weapon release or whatever you want to call it, understand that you might be under orders from a human being, but your orders ultimately come from God. Those commandments from God that say, you shall not murder, do not kill. All right? That's why the death penalty, that's why we can't do that. You have to leave them in prison. You can't kill them because we're not allowed to kill. If God wants someone dead, God will take care of it. You leave it with God. 0% collateral damage. And when you hit this weapon release, this pickle button right there, when you hit that, you don't know who's in that building. You may have knocked on the roof like they do sometimes, like the knock bombs they put. That's nice. It's a nice gesture. It is nice. But I'm pretty sure they didn't knock on every residence that they've blown up in the last 2 days, if I had to guess. And even then, you're going to end up killing civilians. And God is not okay with you killing innocent people. Not everyone in Gaza shot rockets off the other day. Hamas did. And I know Hamas has got control of Gaza, right? I understand that. And they're a horrible organization. And because of the acts that they've done, they have attached all that sin to their soul. All the innocents that they've hurt in the name of their fake God, Allah, right? They've taken that sin on individually from whatever actions they've taken. It's in their log file that cannot be deleted. God has that log file. Everything that you've done, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all in there. And it will all be weighed, right? All of it. It'll all be weighed. And you'll get back what you give out, right? You reap what you sow. But you cannot get angry because they sent those missiles in and they acted heinously. They acted like savages, right? That doesn't make it okay for you to act like a savage because you're mad. You're upset. Your pride is hurt, right? They hurt your pride. The Israeli intelligence force, the IDF, Mossad, all of them, right? Supposed to be the best in the world. And somehow they missed it, right? Mossad, they're supposed to be the best. Somehow they missed it. All their intelligence forces, and not to mention they're in cooperation with the US and Germany and what is it, Five Eyes and all that stuff, right? They all missed it. Nobody saw it. So they've all, their pride is hurt. They're angry. And they've had relatives that have been killed. They said the amount of people killed in this was the same as 9/11 or close to. Probably going to be way more than that. But then you look at the comparison. There's like 350 some odd million people in the U.S. And what is it? 8 million or so in Israel? 8 million, 10 million, something like that. So proportionally, it's a lot higher, right? So, and they're going to feel it. Plus, you have their Jewish history, right? The Nazis and things like that. So their pride is hurt. They're angry. That anger and that vengeance is going to turn into wrath. And the way I've heard Bibi talking about dealing with Gaza, I'm pretty sure he's on the devote to destruction kind of mindset. Which, you know what happens when you get in that mindset? You kill innocent men, women, and children. Because you start flying over with 2,000-pound guided munitions, glide bombs, whatever. You're sending them in and you're blowing up entire structures, just destroying them. You don't know who's in there. You're dropping bombs all over Gaza. It's a small area. They've got, I think it's like 2 million or so people in there. Don't quote me on that. But it's a lot of people and it's blockaded. So I'm not sure where you expect them to go, right? Where are they supposed to go? You got them blockaded. I don't know how they're going to get out of there. And now you basically said you're going to destroy the entire city. You're going to devote them all to destruction. You want to go in there and just blow everything up because you're angry. And you want vengeance. And that bloodlust that you have is going to turn into wrath. And he's going to want to look good in front of his populace. He's going to want to rally everyone around the flag, right? That's a thing politically. And he's had some trouble over there recently. All right, with the Knesset and I guess the judicial reforms he wanted to do. So he's kind of on the back heels anyway. So, this war isn't exactly at a terrible time for him. Politically, who cares, right? Who cares about politics at this point because of what's happened? I get that. But I'm just saying he'll have motivation to, be the savior of Jerusalem, so to speak. So this is not looking good. They're going to call in hundreds of thousands of people. They're going to continue to fly over and indiscriminately bomb. Indiscriminately, I know they're using whatever intelligence they have to mark these targets. But keep in mind, that's the same level of intelligence that let this happen. So take that for what it is. But at the end of the day, the moral of the story, the point of it, is God will allow you 0%. Right, of unintended targets. So whatever you want to do, to get your folks back, you're allowed 0%. You can't accidentally kill innocent people. You're going to have to figure it out. Collateral damage? No. Thou shalt not murder. Do not harm the innocent. Someone's running at you with a knife, someone's shooting at you, that's fine. That's fine. But days later, flying over a territory, they have next to nothing in air defenses. You can just sit there and fly over and drop bombs on them all day long. But you better know what those bombs are hitting. And maybe that's why they're amassing all these troops to actually go in there and go door to door. Because you cannot kill innocent people. You cannot tell me that every one of those people in Gaza are bad people. They are not all part of Hamas. They are not all radical terrorists running around with AK-47s trying to kill people. I don't know the portion of people. You get with the folks over there. I'm not a specialist. I'm over here in Jacksonville, Florida. But you need to figure it out. And do not let revenge turn into wrath. You don't need revenge. You don't need wrath. All you need are your people back. And you need to figure out how to get your defenses set up and work out these differences. Because long term, going to war is not going to work. They've equated this to 9/11, right? That's what they've done. They said, oh, this is the 9/11 for Israel. Okay. Well, look at the 9/11 that we had over in America, right? We had all the, oddly enough, Saudis, right? The majority of them were Saudi Arabians that flew the planes into the buildings and elsewhere. And then America got really upset. And I guess George Bush, really had a thing for, was it Iraq? He really wanted to go to war with Iraq. So even though I'm pretty sure they were almost all Saudis, right, that flew those planes, he decided he would go after Iraq. I don't know. You'll have to look into resource management, oil, and things like that and figure it out. And politically, which countries are friendly with other countries because they have common enemies. It's all war. It's a big war machine. But that's what's going to happen here. So you better figure it out. But all you're going to do is go in there and you're going to kill a bunch of innocent people and you're going to create a bunch of terrorists that you're going to have to deal with in another couple of years, right? Just like we did. We went over there and, went into Iraq and blew up a bunch of people. That was it, like Saddam Hussein or whatever he was going after. So, I don't know. But all you're doing with all that war is just creating more war down the road because you're going to end up killing innocent people and then family members are going to get upset about it and they're just going to come back after you in a few years. So who knows? Maybe Bibi just wants to go in there and wipe them out, right? He figures he doesn't want to deal with this any longer, so maybe he just wants to send them in and just devote everybody to destruction, just kill them all. Not sure how angry he is. But let's take a look at the video here. This is going to get really too long otherwise.
Hit over 500 targets in Gaza overnight, which
Thai
they say
nationals.
severely degraded the capabilities of the Hamas group. The massive retaliatory strikes came in.
Yeah, and it's not even just Israel, right? It's not just the Jews. I think you've got some U.S. citizens that were there. They said some Thai nationals were there. So this is going to encompass more countries than just them. And I think, well, yeah, obviously, the U.S. just sent an aircraft carrier over there near Israel. So strategic partner. So now the U.S. will get involved too.
Israel leaders warned of a long and difficult war. While the Israeli military has also amassed 100,000 reserve troops near Gaza, the troops say they will make sure that Hamas will not be able to go
You see that video?
the Gaza Strip.
Now, what do you see in that video, right? That's kind of like the video you'll see in your display, your MFD or whatever they call it in that various plane. So you tell me what you can see in that. Now, in this example, it doesn't look like they're like too far in the city, but you don't see much, right? All you can see are little blips walking around. It's very hard to tell who's a combatant. I don't know how much intelligence they have on the ground there, especially with it being blockaded, right? So they're just going to be dropping bombs with this tiny little screen, hoping for the best. Using the same intelligence that was good enough to let them get attacked. So,
hinting at a possible full-blown invasion of the Strip. The development...
Right, full-blown invasion. That's probably what's going to happen. That's why they're calling up hundreds of thousands of people, right? Because it's a small country, right? 8 to 10 million people. So you're calling up hundreds of thousands of reservists. Those people have other jobs that they do. So now they're getting pulled out of their jobs to go do this, which is going to be a strain on the economy and the country. But they're going to rally around the flag. So I don't see this ending anytime soon until Israel is quenched that bloodlust, that revenge, that desire for revenge that they have, until that's quenched. And because it's the Middle East, and the Middle East unfortunately operates like it's 1000 BC, this could go on for a very long time, right? Everyone gets their sabers out and they just want to start killing everything.
As Israelis were hunting down the last Palestinian fighters who had infiltrated southern Israel.
See how that building just disappeared? Now, you don't know who's in that building. There could be a daycare in there, who knows? And Hamas They might be nasty enough to do that, right? They might put civilians in those locations just so you can't attack them, but they get you so angry and so wound up that you would attack them anyway. And then guess what that does? That attaches all those murders to your soul, right? So they basically conned you in to sinning. That's how nasty it is of a tactic. Because there are innocents there, and if you kill them, you just murdered, right? Thou shalt not murder. So now you've just taken that sin upon yourself. That's attached to you because you were so angry and you wanted vengeance so badly that you were willing to do it to kill them. So you justified it that it's okay to kill, a few innocent people to get to a really bad person.
Hamas, on the other hand, has criticised the US for sending a naval strike group near Israeli waters, calling it an act of aggression against the people of Palestine. President Joe Biden ordered the US warships, including an aircraft carrier, to move closer to Israel in a show of support while sending fresh military aid.
And here's another point. Let's say they get all these 100,000 people together, right? All the reservists together, the whole IDF, everything. And they sit in there and they bum rush Gaza, which is blockaded, which has no electricity at this point, right? And I think some hospitals have been damaged and things like that. So these people are in there. They have no electricity. They're blockaded. Food, water. It's going to get disgusting. They're not going to let relief in there. These people are cut off. And they're going to be getting bombed for the next however long before they get invaded here shortly. Once Bibi gets all the troops together, they'll go in there and invade them because they have to go get these hostages back. So they're going to get just completely trounced. And if that response is so over the top that they go in there and just devote everything to destruction and start, killing everything, and many, many civilians get included, you're going to have all the other Muslim nations that surround them get extremely upset, including Saudi Arabia probably, right? Not that I think MBS cares about religion all that much, but the fact that a lot of, his people do, he's forced to kind of toe that line. So everyone, all the Muslim countries are all going to unite against Israel if the response is too heavy-handed against Gaza. But that doesn't matter because in God's eyes, is a 0% amount that you're allowed to have, right, for collateral damage. So just keep that in mind. But if they go too far, you'll have these other Muslim countries unite together and come after Israel because they'll take it as a holy war at that point. This will be Judaism against Muslims, Islam. So you have two incorrect religions fighting each other. Not a new story.
Israeli authorities have confirmed 800 deaths, including at least 260 bodies that have been recovered from...
Looks like a child.
...music festival site. On the other hand, Gaza officials reported at least 413 deaths.
And that's the sad thing, because you can't tell me those are all members of Hamas that are in Gaza. They're not. There are innocent people there. There are good people there. Just like there are good and bad people in Israel, there are good and bad people in Gaza, right? People are people. They're all in different parts of their spiritual journey. Some are smart and they're good people and they live for God and, they live according to God's commandments and wishes. Other people go their own way and they want to get spiritually, destroyed over and over and over. That's their choice. They'll eventually figure it out. How long that takes them is up to them. It's free will. You can fight God as long as you want, but you won't win. And eventually, you'll come around. Hopefully it doesn't take you a very, very long time.
Multiple foreign nationals have also been reported dead. 10 Nepali students have also been killed. The Thailand government says 12 of its citizens have been killed in Israel, along with citizens of France, Cambodia, Thailand, Ukraine.
Can you imagine living there? I guess that's Gaza. Can you imagine living in Gaza? You've been blockaded for 2 years? Now you're getting everything blown up. Your little portion of the country there is completely taken over by Hamas, a terrorist Muslim organization. So that's who you got running the show. You're blockaded, and now you're getting bombed. So imagine being a good Palestinian, right? A good Palestinian who wants to do good things and is a nice person, stuck in that environment. In a chunk of land ruled by Hamas, blockaded by the larger country around you. And because the people that are ruling your little chunk of the country decided to be absolute savages and destroy life, now you're going to get destroyed by the people that they were trying to destroy. And now you have no electricity. And there are people huddled in corners right now, listening to planes flying over, praying to God that that bomb doesn't hit their building. But guess what? Whoever's in that F-16 or that plane already has orders. They're already coming up on their target, right? And as soon as they get over it, they're going to hit that pickle button, or whatever you want to call it, weapon release, and they're going to drop it. And they don't know who's cowering in the corner of that building with no electricity, food and water. Who knows? Are they injured? 0%. So keep that in mind.
And the UK. An unspecified number of Americans have also been killed. Mexico stated that at least 2 of its citizens are thought to have been captured. The Hamas militants launched a multi-pronged attack on Israel from air, land and sea on Saturday. The fighters left a trail of dead bodies on Israeli streets as they roamed at will, killing and taking hostages. With an eye on bargains, over 100 Israelis have been taken hostage by the militants. Many in Gaza
100? What a mess.
Taken hostage by the militants. Gaza celebrated the surprise attack on Israel, while Tel Aviv vowed mighty vengeance.
See, that terminology, mighty vengeance. Self-defense you're allowed, but mighty vengeance is very similar to devoting to destruction, to wrath, to things like that. That's more of a prideful response. That's not just I'm defending. That's I'm defending and I'm going to make a point. Right? My pride is involved now because I was attacked, and I'm going to go way over the top. So you killed 200. Let's say there's 200 people, right? And the 200 people, they kill 300 of your people, right? So then you want to get even, right? Now what you really should do, I guess, if you want a self-defense situation, is you take out those 200 people, right? And then your net, the bad people got taken out. You know, it's war in this place, that happens, right? But instead of, you look at it as, well, you killed 300. So now I'm going to kill 100 additional people of yours who may or may not be guilty on this side. So you're going over the top. Or if your pride really gets involved, you're like, no, I think I'm just going to kill about 10,000 people and kill all kinds of innocents in the process because I don't care. That's where self-defense is tricky. Someone's running at you with a knife, someone's going to shoot you, someone's trying to rape your wife. Yes, self-defense is there. But it's different when your pride gets involved. And you're like, no, I want to make a point. I'm going to beat my chest and I'm going to go so over the top that I'm going to kill innocent people accidentally just to make my point. That is very different than self-defense.
Israel also came under attack from the north. Hezbollah, a powerful armed party backed by Iran, said it launched guided rockets and artillery onto 3 posts in the Sheba farms in solidarity with the Palestinian people.
So you can't see much in that video.
Regrettably, history for some media and politicians start when Israelis are killed. Our people have endured one deadly year after another. We chose the peaceful path to achieve our rights, but Israel continued using blunt force against Palestinian lives and Palestinian rights.
I don't know if he's referring to the blockade for the last 2 years or just, previous actions that have happened.
Wage a full-scale war on a nation, its people, its land, its holy sites, and expect peace in exchange.
New Delhi.
Yeah, that doesn't justify shooting off thousands of rockets at people. Indiscriminate shooting off. Those aren't even guided munitions. Even if they were, it doesn't sound like you'd care if you killed innocent people. So just because things have been happening, it doesn't make it okay to do what they did at all. So everyone that fired those rockets, all the damage that was done, that's on you. You've attached that to your soul. So you did it, you own it.
With many Western capitals dubbed Hamas's actions as a terrorist attack. Meanwhile, Israel's foes, including Iran, have hailed the militant group. Anti-Israel protests have also flared up.
How can you how can you say that that's a good thing? To shoot rockets and kill people. You don't even know who those rockets are landing on. You don't even care. All you care about is that they're Jewish. That's disgusting.
Iraq, Pakistan, Turkey, and some other nations.
یک جلوه‌ای از مقاومت و ایستادگی در مقابل رژیم پوشالی صهیونیستی که حقیقتاً این پیروزی رو باید به مردم فلسطین، به مجاهدین فلسطینی، به همه گروه‌های فلسطینی
should be congratulated for this victory. This guy's disgusting. You don't congratulate people for murdering people. Clearly, you didn't pay attention. You're not allowed to murder, right? It's pretty simple. He looks like he's an older fella too, so he'll have these answers soon. He looks like he's up there in years, and these bodies are term limited, so he'll get the answers.
و به امت اسلامی تبریک گفت.
The October 8th strike came half a century after the outbreak of the 1973 Yom Kippur War in Israel. Analysts are flagging intelligence gaps which undermined what was thought to be an aggressive and successful layered approach towards Gaza by Israel. Well, for more on this, we're joined by our correspondent, Jodie Cohen. She's joining us live from Ra'anana. Jodie, shocking scenes over the past couple of days. Just bring us the latest from where you are.
Hi, Ollie. So we're hearing that Hamas has sent more militias this morning into Israel. Most of those have reportedly been killed, and fighting has been going on this morning in 6 border towns. In Israel, 1,000 civilians are reported dead, and it's being compared to Israel's 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Now, Hamas has taken 100 hostages, and Islamic Jihad has taken 30 hostages from a number of countries in America, South America, in Asia, in Europe, the youngest being 9 months old. We've also been hearing that volunteers have been picking up the bodies from that party that he talked about where 260 teenagers were killed.
260 teenagers at a rave, which they shouldn't be at, right? I saw the way they were dressed. It's a very sexualized environment. It's nasty. It's no good. Probably there's like drug use and things like that too. So maybe. But 260 people murdered for going to a music event. Imagine how awful of a person you must be to do something like that. How spiritually dead you have to be to go do something like that. And you think you're in the right because you're following a fake religion, a false religion from a false prophet, who, if you look at his life, was a horrible human being. And that's your prophet. Your child molesting prophet. That's your boy. When you die, eventually, and you're up looking at your body, you're going to realize that I was telling you the truth all along. So just remember this video.
They've now been shot at, so they've had to pause their volunteer work there. Now, this is also affecting the Palestinian people. In response, the Israel Defense Forces have hit more than 500 targets, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad.
500 targets they've hit. And I don't think they're boots on the ground really yet. So these are air targets that they're hitting, flying over air targets. So that's, like I said, I've flown a flight simulator. I know how that works in theory. It's as close as you can get to the real thing, civilian side. It's nasty, right? Those bombs aren't always super accurate. Sometimes they're dumb bombs you're dropping, and it doesn't matter. The explosive radius is so large, you're going to end up maiming people, killing people, burning people that are good people, right? That are innocent, that weren't part of Hamas. They're not part of the terrorist organization. They unfortunately just live there. They happen to be in a blockaded area where they can't get out. They don't have electricity, probably not going to have food and water for very long, no communication. They're just fish in a barrel, and they're about to get destroyed. They probably already are from those 500 shots. I don't even want to think about how many innocent people just got killed.
Rooms, high-rise towers and a mosque housing Hamas assets and terror tunnels. And the IDF is warning Palestinian civilians to take shelter, and 120,000 have left their homes. Now, Israel has also cut the transfer of electricity, fuel and goods into Gaza to...
Right. So Israel's already cut off food, electricity, and fuel. So it's going to starve them to death. They'll have no electricity. They can't run generators. They'll be sitting in the dark just watching bombs drop until the troops come in and, start laying waste and devoting people to destruction, I would guess. I know they have to get hostages back. I get that. But just feels like the response is going to be way more than it needs to be. And many, many innocent people are going to get killed because people's pride got hurt.
And limit Hamas's capacity to strike Israel. They're saying that they've killed more than 400 militias in Gaza, and hundreds more in Israel have been killed or taken prisoner.
Jodie, of course, the retaliation from Israel is pretty swift at the moment, but what are we hearing about the potential intelligence failures that led to the fact that this attack happened without Israel being aware it was going to take place?
Well, you've only got two options, right? These are like the conspiracy theories on 9/11. You got two options. All of the intelligence agencies in the world, especially the partners of Israel, including, Mossad, the IDF, all of them, like all the intelligence agencies, all of them, Five Eyes, all of that. Either they all missed it, all of them, or they let it happen. You've only got two options. And I would assume they didn't let it happen, so they must have missed it. Which is why their pride is going to be hurt, and which is why they're going to respond with revenge in their heart, which is going to probably turn into wrath. And they're just going to be, their eyes are going to be full of rage, and they're just going to want to go in there and get even and kill. And all you're doing is creating terrorists from 10 years from now. Kids that are going to go through this are going to end up being terrorists because all they're going to remember is when I was a kid, I was sitting in the dark listening to the bombs going off, and I had Hamas telling me how these horrible Zionists were going to kill me, and I was getting bombed, and then they came in and they were shooting everybody in the town, and they blew up the hospitals and the banks and everything else. That's what they're going to remember. Imagine how many terrorists you're creating right now that you'll be dealing with later. Once they get tired of this bloodlust and once they've killed enough people, they'll call a ceasefire eventually. Right? They'll call a ceasefire, and then all the people that make it through will be your radical terrorist 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 20 years from now. When you meet war with war, all you get is more war. That's what happens here all the time. It's why we're always at war. Especially if you add in war spoils. It's profitable. All right? When you go to war, you end up with land, more resources, more water routes, more minerals, things like that. Or in this instance, less enemies. But at the same time, you're going to be killing people and you're going to be leaving people alive, hopefully. Right? So you're just creating more terrorists for down the road. This vengeance, it doesn't work. Especially when you're characterizing it like we're going to go in there and it's going to be a mighty war and we're going to make sure they never forget this. That's your pride talking. That's not let's go get the hostages and make sure they're safe. That's not it. It's more than that. It's beating your chest, right? It's Donald Trumpian pride. We're going to go in there. We're going to destroy everybody, right? That's probably what he's going to do. Bibi's going to rally the flag, rally the people around the flag, and they're going to go in there, and they're just going to start laying waste to the place, if I had to guess. Hopefully not. Hopefully I'm wrong, but it's already started, so.
Yes, so this was definitely a surprise attack, and people are talking about intelligence failures. There will already be an investigation underway, and I'm sure that that will go on for quite some time. In the meantime, communities are rallying around. They're making collections to take packages for soldiers. They're opening their homes to people who live in those border communities so that they can try and get out and come and live further towards the centre until, while this war is going on.
I guess that normalization with Saudi Arabia is off the table now.
In Israel, they say that they are putting all their energy and resources to helping in this war effort. And now the politicians are starting to make moves, with Benny Gantz, who's the head of one of the opposition parties, saying that he's willing to join a unity government. And we're hearing that Netanyahu and Gantz's lawyers are meeting today to discuss that. Smotrich has apparently agreed to a unity government, and Ben-Gvir has said that he would agree if the goal is to defeat Hamas. And we're also hearing reactions coming in from abroad.
I think they said Hamas is basically like ISIL. It's the same thing, just radical Muslims that like to kill people and cut heads off. Horrible organization, ridiculous religion, false. But before, I'm not saying it was understandable, but at least you had nothing else to compare it to besides religious books from thousands of years ago. Now, you don't have an excuse. You don't have an excuse anymore. You get to see it, right? You have God talking to us directly. So you no longer have an excuse.
Minister Eli Cohen says that more than 80 countries have expressed their solidarity with Israel, including India's Prime Minister Modi. Lebanon,
National Hinduism.
Hezbollah has joined in the rocket fire, as you were saying. They said that it's a message to those normalising ties with Israel, and the UAE, in response, has said that they're appalled by Hamas taking civilian hostages. And also the US, we're hearing, has deployed aircraft carriers, aircraft and ships to the region, and is sending further munitions to Israel. And US officials are saying that they expect Israel to launch a...
Now that has to be for the other countries. There's no way that's for Gaza, because they'll be over there throwing rocks, and they'll have guns and things like that, and they'll have rockets, maybe some drones and a couple of hang gliders, but you don't need the U.S. military for that. So that's probably for the other countries around that may jump into the fray, depending on how Israel responds, like how forcefully they go into Gaza.
Ground incursion into Gaza within the next 48 hours.
Okay, Jodie Cohen joining us live there from Ra'anana. Very much thank you for your insight.
Okay, so that's it. This definitely drug on longer than I wanted to, but it's a very important and serious topic, so I'm okay with that. As far as what we can do now, I would recommend you pray that God puts wisdom into all the leaders in charge of the military response to this, all the various countries, and understand that the only laws that you really have to follow are God's laws at the end of the day, because they supersede anything that we do down here. And God is not okay with devoting things to destruction and war and vengeance and wrath and pride and bloodlust, things like that. God is not okay with that. And any sins you commit will be attached to your soul. They'll be on you. So you need to decide what you're going to do when you're asked to hit that weapon release button or pickle or shoot or whatever it is. Just understand that regardless of the orders you have from your human leaders here, at the end of the day, you answer to God. That supersedes any orders you get down here. You'll be answering to God. We all will. At the end of the day, we'll all answer to God for what we've done. Who was it? Chris Kyle, I think he was a sniper, and he said, I'll answer for every shot that I've taken. You need to have that mindset, because it's true. Because everything you do here is in your log file, and you will have to answer for it. So understand that whenever you get orders, just keep that in the back of your mind. Your orders don't matter, because God's laws supersede any law here. Right? Just like I'm in the United States, right? You have federal law, it supersedes state law. Okay? Well, God's law is over any laws you have here. So please pray that the leaders in charge of this response don't base it on vengeance and pride and bloodlust. They base it on, we need to get these hostages back. We need to get our defenses built up so it never happens again. Right? Yes, you're allowed to defend yourself, but you should have defenses, work on your intelligence apparatus, whatever it is, to make sure it doesn't happen again. But don't be led around by revenge and wrath and bloodlust, because what will happen is that you'll let these evil people they're acting in evil ways, right? They're doing evil acts. You're going to allow them to trick you into doing the same evil things that they did. And just like they're responsible for all the evil acts they committed, all those sins they committed, that's being attached to them because of their acts, because they shot those missiles over. But they can also trick you into getting your pride hurt and getting your vengeance and your wrath all built up, and then you start attacking them, and you end up killing innocent people and hurting innocent people. So what they're going to do is they're going to trip you up into committing the same exact sin that they did. They were so angry, they were willing to kill innocent people. And if they get you angry enough to kill innocent people, you're just as bad as they are. You have to rise above your pride and your anger. Negotiate, get your hostages back. Don't let them trick you into murdering innocent people. They will make you as bad as they are. That's how it works. They let their anger and their revenge get to them to such a level they were willing to kill. Don't be stupid enough to let them get you in the same position to where you're so angry, you will commit a grievous sin of murder. That's it. So let's pray for Israel and Palestine and everybody else that's involved in this, because everyone's going to get pulled in. Pray to give them wisdom to rise above their pride and just look at it factually and tactically, right? Negotiate, get your hostages back. You need to help people, you need to save people. Don't let your vengeance and your pride take over. Otherwise, you're going to end up killing innocent people and hurting and maiming innocent people, and that sin will be on you. So let's pray for God to put peace in everyone's heart, that they can calm down, take a breath, and deal with the situation. Because at the end of the day, we all need to stop acting like savages. We need to raise the floor up and act as if we're in heaven already. Because the way things look, we've got a long way to go.